Hi, my name is Youp, helping you to achieve more in business and career. And as a recruiter with quite some experience, I've probably seen around 10,000 CVs by now. So let me give you the benefit of my experience and run past all the common mistakes I've seen over the last years. Alright, let's get started. If you want, you can do it like this. Grab your CV and hit pause whenever I mention a mistake that you might have in your CV. Improve it, hit play and continue, and by the end of this video you will have an awesome resume. Alright, first of all, let's talk about the layout of your CV. Have a clear order you use. For example, start with your personal information, then go on to education, work experience, and perhaps any hobbies you want to mention. Don't have too many exotic fonts and different kind of colors. Use a black color, perhaps use Tahoma or Arial. Those are quite easy on the eyes. Don't use too many images or logos. For example, using a logo for every one of your previous employers can make your look CV quite messy. Perhaps you've seen tables like these. They seem quite smart, but it's quite an arbitrary way to mention your skills. It's better to just write it out in words how many years experience you have, for example, with a specific kind of software package. Having a picture on your CV, there's different opinions on this. My personal opinion is if you don't need your looks to get the job, you don't need to have a picture on your CV. If you really want people to see your face, perhaps you can mention your LinkedIn URL and there people can see your photo. Don't use big batches of text, that's not very inviting to read. Try to use small paragraphs with enough white space in between, or use bullet points. Don't use page numbers. If you have a CV that's 2 pages long, you don't have to be worried that people get lost while reading it. Be very wary on grammar mistakes, spelling errors. Use a spell checker. If your grammar is not that good, have someone else read your CV for you. If you send out your resume digitally, have a proper file name with your name and date on it, and make sure that the month at least matches the time you're sending out your CV so people know it's up to date. Let's move on to the content of your CV. Let me start out by saying try to avoid using clichés. So being a motivated, hardworking, quick learning a team player that can also work on an individual basis doesn't really say much. It's quite meaningless to state all this without giving any evidence. If you think, for example, you are hardworking, describe this in your CV and say, well, I've done 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and then people can draw their own conclusion that indeed you are a hardworking individual. Have a correct order of working experience. Mention your last employer first and your first employer last. People are probably most interested in your most recent experiences. Do not go into too much detail about working experience you've had, maybe 10, 15 years in the past. You've probably progressed a lot since then, and so therefore it's not so relevant to describe all this and make your CV too long unnecessarily. Leave out irrelevant working experiences. People are probably not interested what you've done as a summer job when you were 16. If it is unclear how much effort an education or a course has cost you, describe this within your CV. Some courses last 1 day, some courses last 6 months. So don't leave it up to your reader to guess this. Next one, what I do see a lot is that people describe their employer, their job title, maybe the project, but they don't describe their responsibility. So it's up for the reader to guess what has been the involvement of this individual within those projects. When you are describing your responsibilities, try and do this in as much detail as possible, at least for your most recent work experience. And then you go one step further and you describe the impact your involvement has had on the overall success of the organization. For example, I was able to save the company X amount of money in X amount of years, or I was able to grow the revenue within this department to 150%. Next, have a continuous timeline for your whole CV, and any potential gaps you have, you do want to explain. And there's nothing wrong with sometimes having a break from your career, maybe going on a sabbatical, doing some volunteering work, raising the kids. But don't leave it up to the reader to guess what you've been doing within these gaps. Don't write your CV in the third person, so don't go saying, Youp Hardendo is an established recruitment consultant with a proven track record within the engineering sector. This comes across as if you're thinking very highly of yourselves and you sound a bit like a diva. Before I go, let me give you 2 more tips you can use overall. First would be tailor your CV to the job you're applying to, because no matter how good your CV is written, if there's no match between what they're looking for and what you're offering, you will not be invited. So if you want to apply to a specific role, grab the vacancy, grab your resume and try to find as much evidence that there's a match between the two. Use the terminology in your resume that is used in the vacancy as well. And the last one would be, don't be too modest. It's alright to boast a little bit, but you do want to make sure you're able to deliver when you finally find yourself within the position. I'm sure there's many more tips that can be mentioned, so if you have any yourself, please write them below in the comments. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up, consider subscribing on YouTube, and follow me on LinkedIn where I post more content like this, and I will see you in the next one. It's bright, isn't it?